So continuing in that same vein, if Florida State does leave the ACC, you have to figure out what you're going to do to replace them. I've heard people say maybe the ACC should go after some Big 12 schools like, Cincinnati, West Virginia, UCF. Why? Why would any of those schools leave the stability that the Big 12 now provides, making more than the ACC, and go to a place where you're stuck until 2036? No movement. Let's just say hypothetically, you're a school like, say, I don't know, we'll just use an example, Cincinnati. Let's just say you kick some ass over the next few years and there's a way for you to get to the Big Ten. I know it's not very likely, but I'm just making a point here. Or what if you're Arizona? That's a better example. Arizona or Colorado, where USC, UCLA, Oregon, Washington still might need another school or two to balance out the West, and go to the ACC for what? To end up in this position with Florida State's in? Or if Florida State does find a way out of the ACC, Miami's probably coming with them. There's talk about the Virginia schools, UNC even. So why? So I came on here before and I talked about the replacements. I talked about Tulane. SMU's already on the way. I talked about Memphis. I made the video about why not Memphis in a Power 5 conference. Why not Fresno State? So here we are, the next edition of the why not. So I got two schools here. They share the same state. And they so happen to share the same state with Florida State. Those schools are USF, the University of South Florida, and FAU, Florida Atlantic University. So which school should the ACC be looking at to add to their sports? Okay, let's get into it. So this goes out to the Big 12 too, because UCF is very lonely on that island by themselves. The closest school to UCF in the Big 12 is Cincinnati, just checking in at about 900 miles. Just a little bit shorter than West Virginia. Now think about that visual on a map, because UCF is way down in Orlando. Now think about that Orlando and think about where West Virginia and Ohio are. Those are the closest schools to UCF right now. So maybe the ACC grab one, Big 12 grabs the other. We'll see. But as I look at this, UCF also sits 2,132 miles away from Arizona State, who they share the conference with. All right. USF started football in 1997. They were in the FCS, then known as Division I AA, moved up to FBS in 2001 as an independent, on to Conference USA in 2003, Big East in 2005, currently the AAC as of 2013. FAU started in 2001. Around the same time, Dre dropped 2001. Moved to the Sun Belt in 2005. Sun Belt in 2013, and the AAC last year. So both schools have had some coaches throughout their times, and we're mostly focusing on football here. South Florida had Jim Leavitt, Charlie Strong, Willie Taggart, Skip Holtz. Now they have Alex Galesh, who is coming in from Tennessee, that Josh Heupel offense. We saw them give Alabama a little bit of trouble this year, though that was defensive. FAU, Howard Snellenberger, the great, Lane Kiffin, Willie Taggart, and currently Coach Tom Herman, who took off a few years after being let go by Texas. When we talk about basketball, we know that FAU made the Final Four last year. We know that they are the favorite to win the AAC this year and make another deep tournament run. USF, 10-5 this season, but hasn't had a winning record since 2019. And if you want to know when their last winning season was before that, it was 2012. But UCF has done things in football that FAU can only dream of. There was a point in time, now that granted this was 2007, the year of Matty Ice in Boston College, USF was ranked number 2 in the AP poll. Obviously, they fell apart, and they haven't been ranked very much since then. but it is what it is. What happens in basketball if Coach Dusty May gets called away from FAU? There were some thoughts that he would leave last year. He stuck around, but they make another Sweet 16 / Elite 8 run this year. It's going to be popular demand, right? So what do? Boca Raton, where FAU sits, 95,787. If you add on Fort Lauderdale, that's another 181,000 or so. Tampa, the home of USF, playing at Raymond James Stadium down in Tampa, 3.2 million people. So if it's about eyeballs, the answer is USF. If it's about where the programs currently are, it's FAU. But is FAU a problem from a name and branding standpoint? We talk about the MAC, Central Michigan, Western Michigan, Eastern Michigan, Florida Atlantic. South Florida at least makes sense, even though that's probably not the best name either. USF has about 20,000 more students. So in the end, if I'm the ACC, I'm looking at USF. Because if you're going to lose Florida State from the state capital of Florida, Tallahassee, you have to bring back eyeballs considering what you're losing. FAU doesn't provide that as of this moment. The Big 12 is probably in a position where they could take either one. Probably USF as well, just because of their rivalry with Central Florida. It's all about rivalries, college sports, the war on I-4. So I want to know what you think. FAU or USF?